going on, Knick family? It's your boy, UnclefOOlio, and I'm back with another episode of the Kontroversy, ladies and gentlemen. As always, these episodes are sponsored by Nothing But Knicks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell to be notified. Pre-game coverage, post-game coverage, shoot-around videos, coaches corner videos, Knicks and Bruises, Queens Court videos, the NBA report, and of course, the Kontroversy. It's your boy Josh, aka UnclefOOlio, and I'm here with a special guest, ladies and gentlemen. A special guest. He is co-contributor, co-host to Knicks Fan TV, ladies and gentlemen. He is big time. He is my dog. I'm so happy to have him here on the show with me. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only JD. JD SportsTalk is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Salute to you, my brother. What's going on?
Josh, thank you for having me on, man. Long time coming. We were talking about it back in studio, backstage. We were supposed to do this last year. But man, what a perfect time, right? What a perfect time to be on. So thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to a great show.
Yeah, man. And thank you for being here. You know, this guy's big time, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? This guy, you see him all over TV now, cable. If you got cable, you've seen him on cable TV. This guy is doing it big, man. So I really appreciate you you being here. As always, like I always do, look in the link in the description of this video. You can find his Twitter account where you can reach him and you know, look at some of his takes and over the course of the season, discussing Knicks, and of course, I'm sure there's going to be way more of content from Knicks Fan TV and on JD's Twitter throughout the playoffs. JD, we in the playoffs, man. Number 5 seed. The Knicks are back in the playoffs. We're guaranteed a first-round playoff series against Cleveland. Just quick thoughts on that. Like, how are you feeling right now as a Knicks fan?
Man, it's been such a interesting year. You know, I had this team. Everybody know last year I had the 50 burger. That was nowhere near close. A lot of things went wrong, you know, with the Kemba and everything.
Yeah,
but this season, you know, with their offseason, I had them at, you know, 45, 46 wins.
Okay.
And so I thought they would do well. I just didn't think the journey on how they got here was going to be that way. I had different plans on how they were going to get to 45, 46 wins. So, you know, I'm not too surprised in certain ways, but it's been a good year. You know, it's been a good year and it's been a roller coaster year. But once they picked up steam, you know, especially during that second half and certain changes were made from an organizational standpoint, personnel, and some development that happened, all those things into all in one. The team took off and now they're, you know, now they're in the thick of things. I always say, Josh, if there wasn't enough games, if there would have been 10 more games, they might have caught the Cleveland Cavaliers on the 4th seed because they got hot a little too late. And I think just the games worked against them. But overall, 5 seed, I'll take it. And I think they'll be ready to roll on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this might be a blessing in disguise getting a 5 seed instead of the 4 seed. The Knicks are the underdog coming into this series. 2 years ago, we were the favorite by a slim margin over Atlanta, and we've seen how that series went. You know, expectations, things like that. Knicks fans were not used to a winning team, right? So, you know, you had the party outside after we won game 2 and everything like that, and fans went crazy. I think this year is a little bit different. Expectations are not through the roof, even though there's some fans out there who reach to hyperbole. You already know. I know you see it all the time on KFTV. Fans that reach to hyperbole thinking the Knicks are gonna, you know, win the finals and stuff like that. I don't see much of that this year. I think that 5th seed is perfect for us. We've been a tremendous road team before we start really getting hot at home. So us having a disadvantage from that standpoint, I don't think it's much of a disadvantage at all, right? I think Vegas currently has the Knicks at Cleveland at -2 something for the series to win that series. So it's a slim margin, but it's still considerable considering the circumstances. So I'm excited, man. What I do want to talk about to start the show is typically throughout seasons, any season, any sport, there's always a turning point where you can look at it and you can say, well, that moment right there is where everything changed. For this Knicks team, I look at 2 turning points in this season. One being when Tibbs swapped to the 9-man rotation. Cam Reddish was gone right after that, didn't see minutes at all. And then the second part was the Josh Hart trade. So what I want to do is bring up some graphics on the screen and for us to talk about those 2 moments, right, and what was happening before and after those moments. So if you'll allow me, the first one is going to be obviously before the 9-man rotation. So this is the beginning of the season. We started off against Memphis, lost a tough overtime game. I think Cam Reddish hit the time shot to send us into overtime from October 19th to December 4th when we played Dallas and we got smacked at home. These are some of the numbers right here. I'm not going to spell them out and read them out. But JD, just tell me how were you thinking as a Knicks fan during this time period up until December 4th before that change was made?
Man, when we were up to this point, those numbers you're showing there in the graph, I thought to start the year, the head coach had some pressure on him to get off to a good start,
Right.
only because the regime itself, he was already getting a lot of heat. There was a lot of debate about who should play, and it seemed like, for example, the fan base were ready to just roll with the young guys. There was a lot of lost confidence in Julius Randle as being a key player, to take this team to the next step. And then even the acquisition of Jalen Brunson kind of got a little bit of mixed reviews, even though he had the connections with the organization. Rick Brunson being a former Knick, people just didn't feel that maybe it was the right time to make such a move because there wasn't confidence on the rest of the roster.
Right.
So them getting off to 11-13 start, you saw it, Josh. I mean, there was fireworks everywhere. People were looking at it.
Fire everybody. Get them out of here.
Get them out of here. Fire everyone game to game. I mean, there were people that were even rooting for the Knicks to lose just to see certain changes happen. And so I thought everything was divided. The fan base, I think even the organization, there was some mixed things because you've seen it before. The reports of Worldwide West is known to not be the biggest Tom Thibodeau fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was definitely probably the worst point of the season because you had some young players that probably wanted to play. You had the whole Cam thing at that point. There was no plan. Obi, Randall, there was no plan. Like, there was just not enough of clarity onto what the direction was going to be for the season. Are we going to continue this way and continue to be 500? Or are we going to make a decision as an organization to where we're going to either make immediate trades right now to upgrade the roster, or we're going to pivot more to a youth movement? And, that's the position that was at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, personally, coming into the season, I thought the Knicks were going to be mediocre. I thought they would be somewhere around 500, whether a couple games below, a couple games above. And their record at the time, up until that period, they were 11-13. So right on cue with what I was thinking. I didn't think the Knicks had enough an improved Eastern Conference to take the next step, right? And I love the Jalen Brunson acquisition. From day one, I loved it. I said we need to go get that guy. People were saying he was overpaid, which was horrible. And he was a godsend from day one. You know what I mean? I mean, he wasn't doing some of the stuff that we've seen kind of in the middle of the season, but he was just definitely an improvement at that position, no doubt about it. But the Knicks, I agree, the Knicks were a mediocre team up until that point. I didn't quite agree with the rhetoric from some of the fans about firing everybody. I still thought it was way too early in the season, and I thought that the Knicks were still in the process of building a culture at the time, and I don't think they were ready to win yet up until that point. So I agree with you there. And the Cam thing was big around the fan base. Play Cam, Tibbs doesn't like Cam and all that stuff, right? And Tibbs plays his people too long and all that. That's what was the rhetoric. So yeah, I agree. That was how it was towards that part of the season. Now, moving on, this is when I think the first sign of change happened. This is the first turning point of the season when the Knicks went to the 9-man rotation. We lost to Dallas at home by like 30 or something like that. That night, Tibbs decided to go to the 9-man rotation. Cam Reddish was out, and it was just a 9-man rotation. So this is the numbers between then and when we acquired Josh Hart. From December 5th to February 10th, the Knicks jumped up to 9th in overall win percentage during that time period. Offensively, we got a little bit better. Defensively, a little bit better as well. But offensively is where we took the next step. Rebounding, we were always the top rebounding team in the league. I still think we are top 5 in rebounding. Mitch Robinson was tremendous for us. But offensively is where we took the next step, right? Randall was dominating in isolation. Brunson was dominating in isolation. And they started to really distance themselves from the rest of the pack on the team and become those two guys and play consistent basketball. Give me some of your thoughts on between this time period and before we acquired Josh Hart. What were you thinking during this time when the Knicks started to make a little bit of a run?
Well, that first game after he made the move against the Atlanta Hawks, I mean, that is what kind of caught people by surprise because they went on to beat the Hawks 113-89. McBride played 27 minutes that game. He was like a
Yep.
plus 19. Grimes had 23 points that game, and they were rolling. And people were like, okay, McBride is getting minutes. Grimes is now going to be a legitimate starter. We're going to go to more of the young kids now. And that, holding them to 89 points gave the team a little bit of glimpse of potential hope when it came to defensively, because a lot of people felt like just play the kids and play them together between Quickly, McBride, Grimes. So 3 perimeter defenders right there. And that was the beginning of what came into the turnaround. And I think, Josh, obviously I don't know, but I think it got to a point where they all sat behind closed doors. And I think they just said, you know what? We're just going to roll with what you want. We're going to roll with what you want as the coach. If and I think the coach said, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out with my guys. McBride was thought to be a player that he vouched for. Grimes is said to be a player that he vouched for.
Yep.
Quickly is, Tibbs said it in post games a lot that's my guy. Quickly has been a Tibbs guy from the beginning, his rookie year. Quickly was getting 18, 20 minutes per game. And I just think Tibbs pivoted to, you know what? I'm going to go with my guys in terms of the personnel. Let me go. If I'm going to go out, I'm a defensive guy. Let me go out with the guys that give me what I need. And the toughest part, and I guess looking back at it now, you realize how difficult it was. This is a veteran coach that is very loyal. And I'm shocked, Josh, that Derrick Rose so early looked like he looked.
Yep.
I'm shocked that Evan Fournier, who was coming off a successful, summer in the Olympics, playing well. I'm shocked that he looked like just so, I don't want to say the word washed or whatever you want to say, but he just did not look insane.
You can say it. It's uncensored here, man. Whatever you want to say.
He didn't look like, like we thought. But
He looked off. He looked off. Oh, yeah.
This early in the season, like it was surprising, and so I think Tibbs was surprised by that. I don't think Tibbs expected Rose to look like a guy that is now either a third string point guard. And so it's like, when do you pull the plug?
Right.
Like, how far do you really go? If you're 11-13 as a coach, you're like, man, I'm not where I want to be. But it's not like at this point, it's not like we're 8 games under 500. It just doesn't look great because it's in New York and the results are not happening quickly. No pun intended.
Right.
But I think it got to a point where he just had to say, listen, man, the heat is ramping it up. Ian Begley have reported that, things are starting to heat up. And I think he had to, make a decision. And it wasn't an easy decision. It worked out for him. But I guarantee you, if you talk to Tibbs behind closed doors, he'll tell you it worked out for me, but it was one of the hardest decisions I made this season. And, he reaped the benefits of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I want to point out something that you said in regards to Tibbs said, I want to play my guys. And if let's just say hypothetically that meeting did happen and Tibbs said, I want to play my guys. Don't you think that goes against the narrative of Tibbs not wanting to play the kids? Right? That don't play the kids narrative. Tibbs only plays his veteran guys. His guys all along might have been these young players. And what I was telling people, and what my take was from the get-go, was when you are a coach of a team and you have a locker room with a lot of older players in it, right? And the Knicks they were about middle of the pack average age around the NBA last season. But they still had some veterans on the roster who were contributing, who definitely contributed the year before when they made the 4th seed. You can't just put a bunch of young players in there and have them play the majority of the minutes. It has to be a pecking order process in any locker room, because what happens is if you lose the older players in that locker room, you lose the locker room, right? So I thought naturally that process had to play itself out. And I think Grimes, Quickly, Deuce, eventually they were going to get their time. And I thought this was the season for that to happen. But everyone was like, Tibbs doesn't like the kids. He only wants to play old guys. Fournier sat on the bench for the majority of the season. Derrick Rose did, right? You know what I mean? So, and look at the Knicks roster now. Like all our draft picks, we had a couple games where we had a 5-man starting unit. All of our draft picks who get a lot of minutes in the rotation, right? So I just want to kill that narrative about playing the kids and what Tibbs was not doing. And the kids were playing last season. People just wanted to see them more. I thought this is exactly how they wanted it to go, in my opinion, in regards to that natural pecking order. And now I agree. I think Tibbs and the Knicks are reaping benefits because of it. And our future is bright. No doubt about it. Our future is bright. Quentin Grimes, one of my favorite players on the team. This dude is going to be crazy. He's going to be crazy for us. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that. What was your position in regards to playing the kids? I remember you saying some things last year in regards to that. What was your position on that whole thing?
My position was I wanted them to play earlier. I always, even when they were rookies, I had pushed on Knicks Fan TV. I was saying a lot to the guys that these guys were specific specialty players in terms of when they were drafted, they already had a skill set that can translate to the NBA from day one, and that was
Right.
defense.
Mhm.
And you saw it from the college scouting reports, but then in their first summer league, you saw it. Now, yes, they're playing summer league players, but then it translated into training camp. Then you saw the practice reports. From there, it went into preseason with marginal NBA players. And so, there's certain skill sets like the defense to me is one skill set that if you're coming off college and you're a good defender, yes, you're going to run into maybe foul troubles as a rookie, technique issues here and there. But more often than not, it does translate well early in your career. Whereas, you're a shooter, it may take a season or two. You're trying to improve ball handling. Like those other skill sets does take time and development. And when I looked at this is a coach, we have Kemba, we have Fournier. Like we have a lot of guys that are not going to be helping Julius Randle, because I thought Randle caught a lot of heat. And part of it, I thought, was we were expecting him to be a little bit more than what he even needs to be.
Right.
In a sense that let's compliment a guy that y'all keep clipping these 10-second clips of him not getting back on defense or something. How about put the players around him that can do all the dirty work, and then maybe he'll follow? Because some guys are not leaders in that way. Some guys need to see other players around them rise up to the occasion, and then they say, you know what, that's also fun and contagious. I'm going to go ahead and do it as well. And that was my argument. Now, there were fans that had the argument of let's play the kids just because they didn't like Thibodeau. Let's play the kids just because I'm sick of Fournier. Let's play the kids just because I want to tank. That wasn't my position. My position was let's play the kids earlier because I actually think they can contribute to winning. I actually think they can help Tibbs now. And so that was my position. I thought it was my take was more a competitive take, more so than let's just, build it back up from ground zero.
An optimistic take, if you will. Right. Here live with JD Sports Talk here on the Kontroversy, ladies and gentlemen. Please smash that like button. Thank you to everyone tuning in the chat. Let me get some of these comments on the screen. JJ, my man, he says Grimes is the X factor in the Cavs series. We're going to talk about that. Talk about the Cavs series shortly. He says we're a dope duo. Sean P said, I thought I would never see this collaboration. Listen, it was going to happen one way or another, ladies and gentlemen. Trini 2 DB868, Josh and JD might be a fire duo solution.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I don't know if because it's the energy with both of us.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I've heard that a lot outside of here. People have said, Josh and JD, like that's a good duo. So thank you for the comment.
No problem. IQJ says RJ Barrett has been the biggest X factor all season. Had that kid shown consistent glimpses of what he's supposed to be, the Knicks or Eastern Conference. Okay, we're going to talk about that too. We're going to get there. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. Kiko Rodriguez says Grimes and Josh defense will be a factor. Listen, I know I'm always a factor. I appreciate that. Thank you. Of course,
Josh, let me say real quick on the back on the Thibodeau that I thought that meeting might have happened closed doors. Sometimes when you speculate, you can speculate and just be an open speculation, or you can also look at the evidence thereafter to kind of support your statement. And when you look after that, Reddish was gone. Like he did not play. And in games where we were like, he has to play this game. Yeah. Like, you remember those games where it's like, this guy's hurt. Yeah. And it's like, he has to play. Nope, that didn't happen. So they supported Tibbs in that we're going to go your way. Let's not play around. All right, we're going to support you. And then the Josh Hart acquisition. I mean, you cannot tell me that's not a Tom Thibodeau acquisition there. So I just think from what happened and then the way the organization kind of supported him after, I think they just made the decision of, listen, Leon Rose knows he has a lot of pressure. And he knows if I fire Tom Thibodeau, my clock starts
Yep.
ticking.
Absolutely. I
So
said that. Yep.
why not let me support this coach? You see a lot in the NFL. I don't understand why. Like, you hire a coach, you can agree or disagree with his philosophy, but when you're front office and you hire a coach, what did you hire him for? He sold you on something in the interview.
Right.
Get the personnel that he sold you on in terms of his philosophy and his scheme. That's what you have to do. And I think Leon finally decided to go that route. And you can see now they're more in sync. They see eye to eye. And I think there's not a coincidence that you also see it out on the floor and in the locker room.
100% paying dividends. Speaking of the Josh Hart trade, now we're going to transition from that middle period of the season, right, to the Knicks making a trade deadline-ish kind of move and acquiring Josh Hart, trading away Cam Reddish to Portland, and Svi and Ryan Arcidiacono to Portland to acquire Josh Hart. They also gave up a first-round pick, this year's first-round pick in that trade. Since then, February 11th, Josh Hart's first game, right, where he came in and hit the pivotal shot in the fourth quarter. This is the Knicks statistics, ladies and gentlemen. Third in overall win percentage around the league, tied for fourth in points per game, field goal percentage. They're shooting lights out from the field. Increase 3-point percentage to 10th. Free throw shooting still abysmal, right? But, we're knocking down a bunch of threes, I guess, whatever, we'll live with it. Rebounding, never a problem. Assists went down surprisingly, right? 27th in the NBA. However, the pace has been pushed a lot more. But look at that offensive rating. Since we acquired Josh Hart, the Knicks are first in the NBA in offensive rating. And, of course, defensive rating, with an increased pace, you're going to give up a little bit more points. So, Josh Hart trade. So, to me, let me just give my take on it, and then I would like you to respond. Me, I had no problem with the Knicks acquiring Josh Hart. I just didn't want to give up the first-round pick for it. And as it turns out, and salute to Jeremy Cohen of Knicks Film School, who does a great job breaking down the cap and the trade assets. He kind of broke this down for me. The Knicks giving up that first-round pick, they're unable to trade next year's first-round pick until after the draft, right? Because then the Stepien rule wouldn't apply, right? So the Knicks aren't actually, even though they gave up a first-round pick, they still have assets in the cupboard that they can be able to move. And that was my only concern with trading a first-round pick for Josh Hart. But that move that's the second turning point of the season when we got him. 11 games in a row, I think we won or something like that. And then, I think we finished, what was the record? I think the record was 17 and 8, third best overall win percentage in the NBA. Definitely took us from playing to we're going to be in the top 5 and almost top 4, right? So definitely changed the course of our season. Give me your thoughts on that. And from that point on, how the Knicks look now going into the playoffs.
I mean, I don't know that they even expected him to be this. And it's funny because he's putting similar numbers than he did in Portland, at least statistically. But man, like he's shooting 58% as a Knick. And you might say, well, JD, he's only, shooting 4 or 5 shots. He's shooting 7 attempts in Portland. And here he's only taking 1 shot less. And he's 8-9 percentage points higher as a Knick in a tougher market in New York City than he was in Portland. So he is more efficient. He's shooting 52% from the 3-point line as a New York Knick. And, the most impressive thing about Josh Hart is he's like a little mini Brunson off the bench in terms of he brings everything from leadership, and championship pedigree. And the good thing about him is he plays a position that everybody wants to score. Everybody that plays the guard wing position wants to score the basketball. He doesn't care about scoring the basketball. Right. He doesn't care about shooting the basketball. Sometimes, Josh, I think he doesn't shoot enough because sometimes I think he's passing up shots. Right. But the players around him love playing with him because when he has the ball, everyone is cutting. Everyone is playing hard because they feel that, listen, if he drives, I might have an opportunity to get the ball. And so I think his play has been contagious around the team. The other thing is that has been a refresher for the Knicks. Every time he grabs a rebound, he pushes the ball up the court. He puts pressure on the defense. 100%. He doesn't think, he doesn't look left, he doesn't look right. He's looking forward like a quarterback. And if you leak out, he's giving you an outlet pass. Or if he doesn't see nobody in front of him, then he's leading the charge and he's putting pressure on the defense. We haven't seen that in a while from someone off the bench that puts pressure on defense like that. And he does the same move to the paint, and he's always scoring because he's so strong. So he's giving the Knicks key factors that you're only going to see this in the playoffs. It doesn't get appreciated enough in the 82 game season, right? The first round pick is going to be the dominating talk. But if the Knicks win this series, and it's because Josh Hart got 2-3 more offensive rebounds, Josh Hart caught an offensive foul, Josh Hart put pressure on the Cavs defense, you're going to see why. Now you're going to see why the Knicks gave up a late first round pick for him. So I look forward to him playing, and I think he's one of the key members of this series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to say the Knicks are heavy isolation, right? They run, I want to say they're second in isolation or third or something like that behind Dallas, and I think the Lakers or something like that, or Brooklyn before KD got traded, right? So they rely heavily on isolation. So sometimes the ball stops, right? And Randall, to his credit, he's been tremendous in isolation this year. Brunson, the same thing, tremendous, right? They can score. They've been scoring at will all season, and then we get shots based off of that, right? But the Knicks overall as a team, they're not that good of a three-point shooting team. I mean, they've improved lately since the Josh Hart trade happened, but before that, they were not a good three-point shooting team. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So anytime there was that stagnation and Randall was off or Brunson was off, the Knicks couldn't score. They went through stretches of games. I remember the Sacramento Kings game, literally watching us get rebound after rebound. Josh Hart grabbed rebound after rebound, and we settled for threes. Couldn't get to the hole, couldn't score in the paint. Mitchell Robinson wasn't giving us anything as far as an offensive threat down there. Randall couldn't get to the paint. Those types of things, right? The ability for the Knicks to change pace and speed it up and get easier baskets, I think, is imperative for them to compete in that series against Cleveland. Because I don't think pound for pound, we can continue to play isolation basketball against Cleveland. I really think that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, we can't compete with them pound for pound in isolation space. I think we're going to have to change up the pace and get some easier baskets, and I think that's going to help us in that regard, and in regards to scoring. And listen, since the Josh Hart trade, the proof is in the pudding. Number one in offense, right? The Knicks have been scoring a ton of points, knocking down field goal after field goal, very efficient from the field. 3-point percentage is up there. Quentin Grimes has went from a 34% three-point shooter to a 39% three-point shooter over that time period. So I think that's imperative. I totally agree with you. And hopefully Tibbs is going to be able to use that, have that tool in his pocket to use during that first round playoff series. So I'm very, very excited about that. Let me just get to the chat and highlight some comments in here, see what we got going on. Pudge Nice, salute to you, said the pick was worth it. I think it is worth it, particularly if the Knicks can be able to still trade some of their assets. I absolutely think so. Let's see. Jet for life, RJ. Okay. Let's get to that. Eddie Kofi, this team lost 11 games due to poor coaching. We could have easily been number 3 seed. I disagree with that. We're going to talk about that next. Nick Yak, salute. He said, Keith, why, if we play our game and healthy, we can't win a chip this year only with 7 teams that has a chance to keep us out of title games? I don't know about title aspirations, but it's good to dream, I suppose.
Let's go.
Mr. Absolute Truth, I believe Mark Cuban should be fine to lose their number 1 draft pick if it falls under 10 after the lottery because he blatantly tanked. I think a lot of teams were tanking. I don't agree with that. I think it's very difficult for the NBA to adjudicate that. And listen, people don't understand this and don't know this about sports and the commissioner. The commissioner works for the owners. Let's just get that out the way. He works. Adam Silver works for all 30 of the owners in the NBA, right? So they're not going to do anything to take away that Mavs pick, in my opinion. I think the Mavs are still going to get their pick. They probably give them a fine. The NBA has to show face and show that they're serious about the issue because it's an integrity issue. But make no mistake about it, Adam Silver works for the owners, right? And he has to be very careful. It's a very slippery slope that he can that he's on.
I'll say this quickly on that is I don't think the owner will ever, the commissioner will ever have an opportunity to, when they say use as an example or make a statement. I don't think there's ever going to be a situation to present itself like right now, where you had the head coach, and I think this is why Jason Kidd blatantly told reporters, hey, I'm following orders. My boss has made the decision, and that's where we're gonna go. When this team they just had a win where Kyrie hits a shot, like a key shot from the corner, and then now we're talking about all you got to do is win 2 games. All you need is OKC to lose 1, and you're in. That's all you needed to do. And then in 24 hours, it's like they blatantly just bench everyone, and they're putting some young players and saying that they're resting. They're not even announcing injuries. But being that kid told the media blatantly what was going on, I think that's why Silva has the pressure to do something. I don't know what they'll do, but yeah, it's a slippery slope.
No doubt about it. He has to do something. Like I said, he has to show face, but I mean, he is on a very slippery slope because he works for the owners. And to Mr. Absolute Truth, he said Adam Silver should be fired if he does nothing to Mark Cuban. Who's going to fire him? Who's in charge of him? The owners. They are in charge of Mark Cuban. They get, in charge of Adam Silver. They're the ones who get him removed, right? So it's not as easy as people think. This isn't like a regular organizational bureaucracy. The NBA is. There's checks and balances. There's different things that come into play, right? The NBA definitely has to show cause. This is an integrity issue, right? There's a lot of other teams tanking. Everyone knows that. Like the whole Jalen Brunson thing. Like, the Knicks aren't the only team to do that. You know what I'm saying? So right. The NBA has to show face in these issues. But I mean, this not gonna. Don't overblow this. Okay, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? They just happen to get caught. Let's get a couple more of these comments in here. Nikki B from Harlem says, if the NBA can prove tampering, they can prove tanking. Of course. I don't think they can actually prove it. I just think they, act unilaterally, if that's the case. Let's get a couple more. 18042 saying the Mavs will probably lose a second round pick like the Knicks did for tampering. There's no way they would take away a first round pick. I agree. And let me get one more comment in here. FA said, what's good, UnclefOOlio and JD? All right. Now, transitioning over, going back to Tom Thibodeau, I need you to grade him. What is your grade for Tom Thibodeau? Is there anything that you want to see moving forward? What was your original analysis of Tom Thibodeau as a coach, and has that changed?
Okay, so here, oh man, Tom Thibodeau. Okay, a lot of people know I wasn't the biggest Tom Thibodeau fan, but again, my angles are always different than I like to think than from the pack, right? Tom Thibodeau, to me, he's a coach that I root for as a general basis. Why? The New York roots, right. Former Knicks assistant coach. This guy, like, he wants to do well. This was his dream job. Like, sometimes I don't understand, like, how can you want him not to be successful? This is a guy that really loves to be here. Like, he is passionate about being the Knicks head coach. Not how many coaches come here and they just give up and right. They don't embody what you want in New York. With all that being said, I wasn't a fan of his style. I had questions of, does his style long term get you to where you need to be? And that was my question. And with the whole adjustments topic and all those things in between, but you got to give credit where credit's due, man. And we talked about it earlier. He faced adversity, and I think he felt the most adversity that he's been here as a Knick, and he made adjustments. And along the way, he's continued to evolve as a coach. And I think it's been easier for him to do that because the personnel that he has out on the floor complements his coaching style. It's much easier. And I never thought that if he ever were to be fired was because guys would quit on him, because right. The players that he has here are not players that will quit on a coach. I mean, right. Do you ever I could never see Deuce McBride quitting on the floor. I could never see Quentin Grimes quitting on the floor. Right. I could never see, guys like Josh Hart. I could never see guys like that quit on the floor. These are guys that universally, you put any coach in front of them, their natural traits is to be tough, gritty, play defense, play hard. And I think that is what helped him as a coach. And when he started to see all that put together, the chemistry started to build, and he started to improve as a coach. And I think the Jalen Brunson acquisition has kind of loosened him up a little bit. Right. You've seen it a few times where they've laughed, they've smiled, they've joked. I think that does help for a coach that faces a lot of pressure in this New York market. A grade, I'm going to go with a solid B plus.
No.
That plus was like, do I want to grab it back and just?
What's preventing him from getting an A? What's preventing him from getting an A?
Preventing from getting an A. I mean, there's still things I would have liked to seen. Would have liked to see, I still think you could always figure out a way to play Obi a little bit more. I still think you can be a little bit more flexible in certain situations, just a little bit. I don't want to make, blow it out of proportion.
Right. You gave him a B
But
plus. Right.
but there's certain things I still would like to see in terms of substitution patterns, and certain matchup things. Like I would like him to use Deuce a little bit more in situational basketball. He's done it. I want to see a little bit more. I wouldn't mind, taking Brunson out for a possession just to put Deuce McBride to end a third quarter to get a stop. I wouldn't mind those things, but I would say B plus, considering all the pressure. Solid B plus. A lot of people think he should get Coach of the Year votes, and if it wasn't for guys like Mike Brown, Tom Thibodeau could be a real contender to win the award this season.
Yeah, Sacramento Kings are having their best season in 17 years. I think no doubt it goes to Mike Brown. But see, me, I don't do the pluses and the minus. I'm just straightforward with it. Tom Thibodeau deserves an A. He deserves an A. My expectations for this team, I had them, again, like I said, mediocre. I had them somewhere hovering around the play-in, and he got them to guarantee the first-round playoff series. Right? I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. The development that I'm seeing from these guys, right? So from some of these young players, and they're not even young. They're grown men. Let's get that out of our vocabulary. These are grown men, right? From where they were last year, and everyone's saying play the kids and play them extended minutes and stuff like that. They weren't doing that last season. This year, from that experience they had last year to where they are now, I give him an A in that regard. The ability for the Knicks to be better offensively. Offensively, we're a better team. My biggest concern about the Knicks from a strategic standpoint was offensively. We're one of the best offenses in the NBA now. Defensively, we took a little bit of a step back, but I think that's somewhat necessary given the pushed pace that we are now performing at. We're going to give up a lot more points because of that, right? So I think that's the reason why defense is taking a step back. But point blank, the Knicks are winning games, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. These players have not given up on them. Tibbs proved a lot of people wrong, went to the 9-man rotation, which everyone hated, went to the 9-man rotation. It worked, right? The acquisition of Josh Hart, putting him in there, not being afraid to take guys out the game during certain moments. To me, he deserves an A in my opinion. Personally, I don't agree with the heavy isolation basketball, but it's winning games. If you have the dogs to go out and do it, you go out and do it. And that's, for me, why I have to just take a step back and let him do it. He knows what he's doing. He's been around forever. You know what I mean? So I'm giving him an A. You know what I'm saying?
Watch these playoffs isolation. Watch those Suns last 4 minutes of the game. Let's see if they pass the ball 80 times. Let's see if the Clippers pass the ball 80 times when it gets to crunch time. The Bucks may be the only team only because of the way Giannis' style is that doesn't go crazy ISO at the end of games, and they have Drew Holiday and stuff. But these other teams, when it comes to the playoffs, this pace slows down a lot. You're going to see it against the Cavs. We already seen it, in the last game that they play. You go to your main guys at the end of the day. And I think he's faced a lot of criticism because he's played that style throughout the 82-game season, to an extreme factor. But in the end, like you mentioned, playoff time, that's what it comes down to at the end. You're going to go to your best players and you're going to have them, win or lose you these ball games.
Yeah, and people are like coming at me in the chat. I'm about to highlight some of these comments now, but you telling me your expectations was 47 wins coming into the season? What was your expectation? If your expectation was below that, like me, right, he exceeded the expectation. If your expectation was 47 wins or somewhere close to 50, he's there, right? So how can you take, to me, I just don't understand that. To me, I don't think the Knicks had a roster coming into this season that they can get to this point, and he has exceeded those expectations. That's why he's in Coach of the Year voting. He's going to be in that dialogue.
I will say this on the ISO. I do think if there is a criticism to him, and I've always brought it up, is because obviously he allows it to happen. Some of it, I think, are his play calls. Is I would like for him, for example, when it's Randall, I would like for him to get the isolation in better spots for Randall. I don't like when Randall gets the ball at the 3-point line. You allow the defense to
30
set
feet away from the basket.
And then you turn him into a guy that now has to take 3 more dribbles than maybe he has to just to get from the 3-point line to the mid-range spot or the post, which is the area where he's actually most effective when he gets the ball already in those areas. So I would be more comfortable with Randall, beginning his ISO game at the free throw line, in the pinch post, in those areas, than when he does it at the top of the key, when he does it behind the 3-point line, or sometimes even when Jalen Brunson is just dribbling right past the half-court line. I would like the ISO to be a little bit more precise, and to be KD is the perfect example. Not everyone is
Oh yeah,
KD.
right.
But when you look at Devin Booker, when you look at Kawhi Leonard, in the past, you look at guys like Paul Pierce, even now with Jimmy Butler. These guys are heavy ISO players, but they're so good because they begin their ISO game in the areas that are sweet spots on the floor.
I agree with you there. I think some of that is Julius Randle. But I agree. I think that is an area for improvement, but I still give him an A. You know what I mean?
No,
Because of the results of it,
right.
right?
Right.
Not necessarily the process. Let me get some of the comments in here. The stubbornness prevents an A. Okay. Jerry McIver says, for me, it has to get us past the first round. I was just talking about regular season. Fly God, C-Mac, there's nothing preventing Tips from getting an A. He just doesn't deserve an A. B is a perfect grade. All right. Pudge Nice, for some reason, thinks that the fans had some sort of impact and they influenced the decision for Tom Thibodeau to play the kids. I think that's completely delusional and naive. But go ahead, Pudge Nice. If you believe that, so be it. D. Cooler said, A, stop. Okay. My boy Randall knocking Tibbs over like a bowling pin after making that game win in Miami was hilarious. Oh, that was funny. That's probably the funniest moment of the whole season, in my opinion. Mr. Absolute Truth says, VIP question, after the lottery, if the Dallas pick falls between 11 and 14, we still get our top 10. Yeah, that's the pick. If it falls between 11 and 14, that's us. We get that. If it goes under 10 and under, Dallas takes that. So that's what that means. Let's see. JR.
Summer League is gonna be trash this year if they don't get a pick.
Oh, I ain't worried about no Summer League. I ain't worried about that.
I'm just saying, like every year, their Summer League roster has been like 2-3 players you look forward to watching. This year is gonna be like, oh, Trevor Keels.
Right, got you. And Isaiah Roby, we might see him there. We just signed him. And let's get one more comment. Krog and Prowse says Tibbs gets an A, 4th and 5th seed in 3 years. I agree with that. All right. Now,
are you ready for this?
All right, let's do it. Let's do it, man. I'm ready. I've been ready.
Ooh.
To the thesis of this video, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm here with JD SportsTalk from KFTV. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Please go in the comment section. Let me know what your comments are. But we're about to get to the main thesis of this video. Is RJ Barrett an X factor in this series? I'm going to let JD go first, and then I'm going to retort. I'm going to let him go first, and then I'm going to retort.
Hold on. You say A, or is he the?
Is he the X factor in this series?
Wow.
Spin it however you want to take it. You just go ahead, and then I will retort to that. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, put yes, no, whatever you think in the chat. I'm going to highlight some of the comments after. But JD, the floor is yours. Tell me what you think.
Now, I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to tell you what I thought before I got on the show tonight, what I was saying yesterday to friends on group chats and stuff like that. What I was saying yesterday was I said, if RJ, I feel like we could beat the Cavaliers with an inconsistent RJ. We're going to get smoked against the Bucks, albeit we go that far. We'll get smoked against the Bucks with an inconsistent RJ. I think against the Cavs, we can get by him being inconsistent. I think we can just squeak by. But now today I'm thinking, I don't know, Josh. This team has so many question marks. You know what it is? Is Randall. It's the ankle injury has really thrown a lot of things off. Because if Randall was healthy and I knew he would be healthy, then I would say, would you say that RJ is an X factor, or would you say RJ is a bigger X factor if Randall's not going to be great? In other words, can we beat the Cavs with both of them not on their games, or with one of them in their games? To answer the question, I'm going to say this. I think he is. In the end, because of the psychological pressure that's going around, because of like the fan base and, everything that's going around. He said something interesting during the last game, and I don't know how I felt about that, where he said that He's looking forward to this series against the Cavs, and he specifically said there's a special player on the other side. So I am personally excited for this matchup. Why did he, first of all, notice he said a specific player on the other side. They have a lot of specific players. Who is he talking about? Donovan Mitchell. And then he says, I am personally, nobody asked you that, but you went ahead and said you're personally excited. So I'm starting to think is he going to take this personal, because there's been a lot of rumblings that this whole season has been about him trying to prove to the Knicks, like, oh, you were ready to ship me out, you ready to trade me, and the lack of disrespect, blah blah blah. A lot of people think maybe that's played a role in him having a setback year. I don't know, but I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't know if I want him to continue to add pressure to himself. But I think, Josh, he's an X factor. If he doesn't play well, I still think we can win, but I don't think it bodes well for his future here with the Knicks. I'm just gonna be real. I don't
All
think it
right.
does.
Okay. So let me just say I 100% disagree with you. Obviously, you know that was coming.
Hold up. I want to hear this. Go ahead. I want to hear this.
Let me just get this out the way.
Let's go.
RK hasn't been the next factor the whole season. He hasn't been. I mean, look, my expectations for him have dwindled down to him just being a role player. That's what he is, right? I mean, it would be nice if at that position we had who all the RJ stands want to be, that guy at the position to play next to Randall, to take over the helm and do all that stuff. But that's just not who he is, right? I think the X factor is Immanuel Quickley. I think Immanuel Quickley has surpassed RJ in that role. It's why, in particular, you've seen Immanuel Quickley in there and RJ Barrett not in there at the end of games. I think Immanuel Quickley is a better ball handler. I think Immanuel Quickley is a better shot maker. I think Immanuel Quickley is just better in those in-game situations at the end of games than RJ Barrett is. And RJ Barrett, for me, is just a player that we are playing at the 3 position because we really can't. We don't really have anybody else there, in my opinion, that can really fill his spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not that good. I'm sorry.
You agree with what I said yesterday?
I mean, no, but he just isn't. You know, and I'm not trying to come down on him. I appreciate what he does give us. I like his ability to rebound. He rebounds very strongly for someone at that position. When he is going downhill, you know, he can score. But he's very inconsistent in that regard as far as finishing at the basket. He's just, you know, I'll put it to you like this, and I'm gonna be as flat out as I can. Offensively and defensively at that position, that's our weakest position. At that position, offensively and defensively. And I'm not taking anything away. I mean, I appreciate what he does. I just think he is more of a role player. And to me, the X factor is Immanuel Quickley. I'm not expecting much from RJ Barrett. I mean, if he has a good game in one of the playoffs where he drops, you know, comes out and drops 30, gets hot from 3, I'll take it gladly. But I just don't think RJ Barrett is that guy. And, you know, hopefully he can change my mind and you know, we can keep him around. Long term, the Knicks need to go 3-and-D at that position. They need to go 3-and-D at that position. RJ Barrett can't shoot, and defensively, he's a little bit of a liability. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? We need to upgrade at that position. If we get a solid 3-and-D player at that position, I think the Knicks are contenders perennially at that position.
So let me ask you this. So you think that this playoffs, he's playing for his future on this franchise?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because he is under contract, right? But here's what I will say, and I think this goes back to last year. The Knicks aren't hell-bent on keeping him. I think you can take that back to last year. They were going to get rid of him for Donovan Mitchell. Everyone knew it. It was like, come on, you know, elephant in the room, right? So I don't think that.
Well, the thing is, if he comes back next year, he's starting. I don't see the Knicks benching him as a Knick. I think he gets traded before he's coming off the bench. I know you've had some interesting, you know, you've had some takes about in the past about him coming off the bench. But I don't know that the Knicks would do that. I think he would get moved first before that. So that's why it's such an interesting dynamic because, you know, again, the Randall thing. If Randall plays well and Randall shows that he can be that piece, we've seen the front office is loyal to him. The front office is behind him. I mean, the front office would do anything. You know, they've done everything behind closed doors to support, you know, his ups and downs here as a Knick. So I think he's ahead of the ladder over RJ, and I expect Brunson to play well. That's two pieces right there. So then it will get to your point where you would look at that 3 spot and say, okay, this is the missing piece, right? Then you talk about the Trey Murphys, the Jalen Browns, and you talk about players that
Oh
could
boy.
be could be the missing piece.
Oh
Because
man.
I frankly think the NBA is headed towards kind of like an NFL thing where when the season starts, every fan base thinks their team has a shot,
Hmm.
right? Because I know Giannis is the best player in the NBA, but I don't know what you think, Josh. Giannis still like I don't go to sleep like the Kobe era or the LeBron era or those players where I'm like like I'm gonna lose sleep tonight. Like I'm having nightmares. Like we have
Right.
no shot against
You
them.
gotta beat Shaq. You can't.
Yeah,
You gotta beat him.
like Giannis is not that style of
Hmm.
player. Like I still think you can beat a Giannis team, and then after that, you're looking at the Sixers, who James Harden is towards. He's not the same James Harden as before. Joel
Right.
Embiid is a 7-foot player that's going to be 29 years old, has a lot of miles picking up,
Right.
and then you have the Celtics, who knows if Jalen Brown's going to be there long term. So there's a lot of creases starting to build there in the
Yep.
East to where you make one move and you're right there as
And
a contender.
this is why I was on board with the Donovan Mitchell trade, because to me, I think let's say we don't know what the trade was. The Knicks fans who are so happy with what the Knicks are doing, I'm happy with what the Knicks are doing too. But they again refer to hyperbole. It would have been 6 first-round picks. It would have been your whole entire bench would have been depleted and all of that. I don't think it would have been like that. First of all, right? RJ would have most likely been in that deal, and either a mix of Grimes or Quickly, and then you add Obi in there, right? You still can keep one of those players. To me, I think it probably would have been either Quickly or Grimes, right? Let's say we keep Grimes. You trade RJ, Obi, and Quickly to acquire Donovan Mitchell. You got Donovan Mitchell, all NBA player, playing with Julius Randle, who's going to be all NBA. Jalen Brunson very well deserves all NBA. 3 of those players in their primes under contract for 4 years. You telling me the Knicks wouldn't be able to put a solid team around that? Around that? And another ball handler at the end of games, Donovan Mitchell, and his ability to knock down a 3-point shot. And if they keep Grimes, you put Mitchell at the 2, Grimes at the 3, a little bit undersized where he can defend, he can shoot, don't need the ball. Come on. And on top of what you just said, you made a great point about Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Those teams are on a decline, I think. I don't think their best years are ahead of them. So you talking about the Knicks in 4 years of having those players under contract and what we can do with that team?
Well, just think about it, Josh. Like the Milwaukee team, right? A lot of people like to big them up and all that stuff. But when you look at it talent for talent, first of all, Brook Lopez is 35 years old. So although he's still elite, he's older. Grayson Allen, are you taking Grayson Allen over Quentin Grimes?
No.
For starting the team? No.
No.
Right? Javon Carter off the bench. You taking Javon Carter over Emmanuel Quickly?
No, not even close.
No. You got Jay Crowder off the bench, Joe Ingles, Pat Connaughton. Like, I'm not taking none of these guys over the Knicks' young talent. But the thing is, as you mentioned, in terms of what could be the missing ingredient for this team, that's what it's all about. Roster building. It's all about putting the pieces where it's at. It's not sometimes always about, well, this guy's more talented than that guy. And if you compare this roster to my roster, our roster wins out. Remember, people used to love to do that with the Hawks and the Knicks.
Right.
And you see now the Knicks are actually a better constructed team than the Hawks. Hawks got a lot of young talent and all that stuff, but something's missing. So
and they're capped out. They're on a luxury tax, so they really can't spend as much.
Yeah, and like the Bulls, they gave up a lot, some draft capital, so they have less resources. So the Knicks have a great opportunity, but with RJ, Josh, he has to play well, man. I think he's at a critical point of his Knicks career. I understand that he's 22 years old. I understand that he's at the beginning of a contract, but the thing is, Josh, is this Knicks franchise has committed to Brunson and Randle. And although Brunson and Randle are young and they still are in their prime, it's not like people make it seem like they're 10 years older than the other, young guys. They are good enough now to win now. And the East is not the East of the past. So Leon is going to face pressure soon here with all these assets. Next year, they could get the Mavs pick. Next year, maybe the Wizards picks convey. Like, they have assets sooner or later. Like, and that's the other thing too, is where are you going to go to upgrade the roster?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like to talk about what we need. Nobody wants to really say the players that need to get out of here. Like people say, "Oh, we need a wing player. We need a 3-and-D guy." Well, you're basically saying RJ needs to go because where is that 3-and-D player going to fit?
Right. No, I'm saying that. I'm saying that. I'm saying that specifically. But people don't know. I know what you're saying. You're saying people don't want to say get rid of RJ, but they're saying we need a 3-and-D player. I see what you're saying, but I'm saying that he can go in that trade.
Because if you look at it next year, Brunson, Grimes, that's your starting backcourt. Randall, Mitch, that's your starting center and power forward. Nobody wants to trade quickly, so he's going to be your sixth man again. Obi, let's see. Hartenstein, he's going to be on a contract year next year, so he's going to be your backup. Like where are the roster spots?
Right, exactly.
I mean, Tom Thibodeau has a challenge this playoffs. Like what I think one of the biggest challenges he has, Josh, is in the playoffs, rotations even shorten more. Like he has 9 guys. Watch these playoffs. There's going to be a lot of 8-man rotations in the playoffs. And the Knicks might be the only team in a unique way where Tom Thibodeau may have to actually stick to the same minutes distribution because all these guys in this rotation can bring something to the table. But if a guy like RJ doesn't play well, what will Tom Thibodeau do?
Question. That is a good question. Let me just answer this question real quick. Josh, when we beat the Cavs, will you still say we should have made the trade? Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. The Donovan Mitchell trade was less about what the Knicks are going to do against Cleveland and what they're going to do after the first round. Contention. Perennial contention. Not just get into the first round every year, winning the first round series. I'm talking about getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. To me, that's what I'm thinking. So it goes beyond the Cavs in this. Like, I think the Knicks, they can beat the Cavs. I think if Randall comes back healthy, it's 50-50. We can win that series. In 7 and 6, whatever. We can win it. But just because we beat them does not mean that we should have made the Donovan Mitchell trade, because for me, it goes beyond that. I'm looking at beyond the first round. And that next round, when we play a Milwaukee or a Boston, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking at that. The Knicks can very well make the Eastern Conference Finals this year. But are you telling me this is a perennial Eastern Conference contender right now as constructed? I don't know about that. I think we still need one more piece in that 3 position. I know Donovan Mitchell's on a 3, so forget about him. Jaylen Brown, I'm picking up the phone lines for him. Or if he asks out, I'm picking up my phone lines.
Let me ask you this. Because I had a little bit of a semi-hot take. I don't want to throw this show off the rails, but you know, Luka or Jaylen, who you taking?
For this current team, I'm taking Jaylen Brown. And the only reason I'm saying that is for fit purposes. And this is what I like to, because people say, Josh, all you want to do is trade away our young guys for a star. No, I'm not just trying to trade away RJ for nothing. That's not who I am. Like, I'm not just trying to give up the kid and throw him away for nothing. That's not what this is about. This is about team building. Like JD, he had his take on why he wanted to play the kids is for optimism purposes, not just saying play the kids to do whatever, something negative. So I'm not trading away RJ Barrett or trading away the kids just to bring in any old star in here. The fit has to matter. I don't see Luka and Julius Randle fitting together. I just don't, personally. Now, if the Knicks were in a situation where we didn't have Julius and Obi was the one there, yeah, bring in Luka, build a team around Luka. But Luka, Julius, and Brunson, nah, I'm not really feeling that. I don't like that fit. Now, Jaylen Brown, that's a whole different ballgame. I put him in that 3 spot easily. He fits in seamlessly. Doesn't need the ball all the time. Right, his usage is up this year, but for the most part, doesn't need the ball. He shot almost 40% from 3 in previous seasons. He's not shooting that well this year, but he's 49% from the field, averaging 25, and he can play D. You know what I'm saying? So that's about fit for me. I just don't want to trade for anybody. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, it's Jaylen Brown all day in that situation. Let me get some of these last comments in here before we close it out. We are at our hour mark right now. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. I know it's Monday evening, beginning of the week. Thank you for tuning in. Let me get to a couple of these comments as it is, and then we'll close it out. IQJ says, that's why I support the Knicks and not an individual player. I see things from an unbiased perspective. Me too, contrary to popular belief. Let's see. IQJ also says, RJ Barrett is a bust, considering the expectations he had when he was drafted. Yeah, RJ might go to a different team and put up numbers like Kuzma and Brandon Ingram, but the numbers don't matter. I don't think RJ's that talented. I'm just going to be real. I just don't. I really don't.
The concerning thing about me with me is and RJ is such a polarizing figure within the Knicks fan base because there's some like the guys because to me RJ is my favorite Knick, but I told you behind the scenes I'm objective. I'm attached to winning a championship. You get attached to players. I was a Cam supporter. I don't talk about Cam. I don't tweet about Cam. I'm good. Moved on.
Right.
Like I'm focused on the Knicks, right? And so, but the thing with RJ is some people that really support him, they don't like to acknowledge the obvious challenges that he has. And I think the people that don't support him sometimes do go a little bit over the top. So there's no in between with him. And when you use the word polarizing is usually because of that. There's two aggressors because neither side wants to acknowledge the other. And
It's like
but
Democrats and Republicans, man. Let's just call it
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And no one gets
That,
anywhere. We can't get
yeah.
anywhere as a society.
Exactly. Basically, yeah. Good analogy. But the thing I would say that I'm really, really concerned about is his defense. He was showing signs and flashes early on of tools that he could become a solid defender. Like I remember that game, Jimmy Butler gave him praise. Remember the game where he defended Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard gave him props. Like he was showing signs. And I don't know what happened this year, but he's taken a huge step back. And I don't know, Josh, that this is the age is really to his benefit. I understand offensively, you want to say the whole he's 22 years old. Fine, that can be valid. But defensively, I don't know if he could get better than what he is right now defensively because other people say too he needs to lose weight. I saw him in the last game, and I think, how much more weight do you want him to lose? I think he's
Yeah.
lost weight recently. Like, go look at him. Like, seriously, go look at the game against the Pacers. Look at his shoulders. He looked lean. Like, I don't know how much more do you want him to lose weight than what he is. I think he's actually lost weight recently because I looked a month ago. He looked heavier a month ago. But when you look at guys like Paul Pierce, not a good defender. Carmelo Anthony, not a good defender. Zach Randolph. Those are guys that were like different positions. But when you don't have the physical attributes, you have physical limitations like RJ does. You need to do extra film work. You need to be sound on technique. You need to be able to know tendencies. I don't know if he's doing that because Tom Thibodeau a few times has low key kind of called out his work ethic and told him he needs to be more in the gym. And I think he
Right.
needs to get into the film work in order to improve his defense because from a physical standpoint, you got to understand, I just named you players in previous eras where you didn't have to cover as much real estate as you do now.
Right.
Back in the
Right.
day, people talk about Allen Houston being a great three-point shooter. Go look at Allen Houston's numbers. Allen Houston wasn't even putting up 5 3-pointers a game. Like, think about like the era we're talking about.
Wow.
Now,
Different era.
you're guarding right at the 3-point line. Like, you're guarding sideline to sideline. It's a different era. It's harder to defend guys now. So it's even more difficult for players of physical limitation. Look at Fournier. Fournier now, you can't even play him. Can't even
Right.
play him. It's getting more difficult and
Yeah.
difficult for guys that are slow-footed in the NBA. Luka, his dark secret that nobody wants to talk about. That's why I be telling you, you guys want to get on Randall. Oh my God, you don't want to see Luka in New York playing defense.
Right. Yeah.
Y'all want to clip these
Yeah.
Twitter videos
And
about
and the
Randall?
complaining and
Oh my
the
God,
technical
you
fouls and
guys
all that.
don't
Yeah.
even know. You
Yeah.
should have seen that Warriors series last year in the Western Conference Finals. How they put Luka on every single pick, and after they put him on a pick and Luka died, their whole team was off on the rotations. Nevertheless, I think, RJ has a tough task ahead of him. I hope he can play well in the series. I think he's an important player, but he may be playing for his next future with this front office because I don't think this front office is as high on him, as the Knicks fan base or the supporters of RJ are.
I agree. Well, there you have it. JD Sports Talk, ladies and gentlemen.
We
Round of
could have went on
applause
another
in the
hour.
chat. We could have went on another hour. We could have done it. I definitely enjoyed.
Uh-oh, did my man Josh go into the Matrix?
Did we lose you?
I'm good. I hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened just now.
Okay.
Yeah, let the people know where they can find you, man.
Twitter, JD Sports Talk NY on Twitter, JD Sports Talk NY on Instagram. You can follow me. Obviously, you guys know, self-explanatory. You can see me on Knicks Fan TV. I do also have a YouTube channel that I stopped using a little bit once I got on Knicks Fan TV. But thank you for having me on. I do want to give a special shout out to Sim. A lot of people don't know. I actually was on NBK for a very, very short time, some time ago. And I know always want to give credit where credit's due. Sim is actually Sim's platform, NBK, was actually a big part of my development and where I'm at today. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Sim and everyone on the NBK family, especially the Queen, you, Josh, specifically. You guys are two guys that I have close relationships with. And yeah, man, thank you. And let's do it again. And let's go Knicks.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. JD Sports.
A lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know, but I was here with him early on. I remember early, man. When we were coming on here talking, chatting Knicks. JD had his son coming to in the screen and everything like that. So yeah, man. It's just a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing you, man. You're doing some big things out there, and you're definitely motivation for me to keep this thing going myself. So I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you to everybody in the chat for tuning in. We had over 250 people watching us for this particular pod, so I really appreciate that. Leave your comments in the comment section. I know y'all gonna come at me about the RJ take, but I'm not telling you anything you don't already know about me. This has been my take since the get-go. I don't hate the kid. I just think we need to upgrade at that position. Period. If he turns out to be this great player and we have him under contract, under a really good contract, I'm cool with that. We keep him. I don't like the fit with Randall, and I think his defense needs to improve and his shooting needs to improve, especially at that position. So that's just me. Look at all the advanced numbers. The advanced numbers will tell you at people in similar situations as RJ Barrett, the amount of minutes he's last in the NBA in a lot of advanced metrics, right? So I'm not making this up. This is not me just bashing the kid. Hopefully he can get better. I appreciate what he has given us, but I'm not really leaning on him.
Josh, real quick, 1 to 10. I like to do this on my streams. 1 to 10. Give me your confidence meter. 1 to 10. Where's your confidence at Knicks versus Cavs in the Knicks' ability to win this series? 1 to 10.
Julius Randle's healthy. I think it's 50-50. I think it's 50-50, and I think it goes to game 7.
So if he's healthy, your confidence meter is at a 5?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
my confidence. Okay, so one. Okay, I'll say 7.
Okay,
I'll say 7. I think the Knicks have a really good chance to win this series, but I think it's going to be a battle. People are sleeping on Cleveland, and I get it's the competition coming out. Knicks fans, I know how we are. You know what I mean? Like I always say, seven Knicks fans, 10 different opinions. You know what I'm saying? This is how it is. But yeah, I think we got a good chance. And 50-50 to me is high for me. I think that's very high. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's where I'm at with it, man. But again, I appreciate you for coming on. Leave your comments in the comment section, everybody. Queen's Court coming up in 5 minutes right here on NBK. Please tune into that. Ladies and gentlemen, for JD and for the rest of the NBK fam in the chat, this is your boy UnclefOOlio saying peace, sayonara, and I will see you next time on the Kontroversy. Peace.